Before that, dear friends, please give a big round of applause to Prof. Evan for his excellent presentation. Thank you, Prof. Are you still with us until at the end of the session, Prof?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So let me introduce our next presenter far away from here in New Zealand. So let me introduce our second speaker, Professor Fandy Tjiptono. He's a senior lecturer at the School of Marketing and International Business, Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. His research interests include consumer behavior and marketing practices in emerging markets, brand longevity, consumer and corporate social responsibility, responsible consumption, and social entrepreneurship. His research, yes, were published in very top journals such as Journal of Business Ethics, European Journal of Marketing, Journal of Cleaner Production Marketing Intelligence, Asia Pacific Journal of Marketing. And then looking at his H index in Google Scholar, 38 with 10 H index in Scopus. Very impressive. And then without further ado, I would like to invite Prof. Andy. So the floor is yours. 40 to 45 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, please.
Thank you. Kia ora, everyone. Good morning. Here is good afternoon. So thank you for having me. It's a good and wonderful opportunity for me to share my experiences as an author, a reviewer, and also editor of journals. So my job becomes easier because Prof. Ivan already talked about everything here. So hopefully not much like overlapped in terms of what I'm going to present and share with you. So I just call it tips for publication success based on the the pamphlet distributed by the committee. So what I'm going to cover today is everything in your poster, talking about choosing a journal, aims and scope of a journal and special issues, editors' expectations, reasons for editorial decision, and how to handle rejections. Everyone I believe that no one loves being rejected. We will feel like so disappointed, frustrated, things like that. So this is like the reality in publication. Now I like the way Prof. Ivan mentioned that publication is about game or system. I do believe that system creates behavior. So let me start with a brief introduction about myself. Yes, Prof. Fazli already mentioned that I'm a senior lecturer at Marketing Discipline, School of Marketing and International Business, Victoria University of Wellington. I joined this university starting from early January 2019. So I was lucky to join this university just before lockdown, right? before the pandemic, the right time to be in New Zealand. Prior to that, I was a lecturer at academic staff at Monash University, Malaysia for 4.5 years. And then before that, I was a lecturer at Atmajaya University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia for more than 14 years. So I've been experiencing different systems under different universities, but I found that, as I said earlier, system creates behavior. The pressure for publication depends on the system that we adopt. Now we talk about Scopus. I know my friends in Indonesia and Malaysia complain about the standards about Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. But the institutions I joined since I moved to Malaysia at Monash and now in Victoria, we use ABDC, Australian Business Dean Council. I saw that Prof. Ivan's journal is also indexed in ABDC. Slightly different game in the institution that I'm working at, is that only publications in A and A star journals will be counted for our KPI. That's the pressure here. If I publish in B journal according to ABDC, that's good for my CV, but it will not be counted for my annual KPI, not for my promotion. And that also drives something a bit different. Prof even mentioned about collaboration. Sometimes when I need to start collaboration, when I look at my co-authors, it's all about matching the objectives. Okay, some of my papers, Prof Wesley mentioned, I'm lucky because I have papers at Journal of Business Ethics. So I've tried different methodologies. This paper on the left-hand side, top left-hand side, is using survey. The other one on the right-hand side is also survey. But on the bottom left-hand corner, this is an experimental design paper. And then the other one, the last one here, is qualitative. In my experience, I found that publishing in journals, reputable journals, different methods will have different challenges. To be honest, the most difficult, the most challenging one is qualitative paper, because we have to be very good in crafting the paper in terms of how to write the section, the findings, and also the positioning of the paper. On the other hand, it seems that some journals, especially when I talk about marketing and consumer behavior journals, we have a kind of a slightly a bias towards experimental designs. Because some editors, they favor experimental designs articles due to its ability to come up with causality or cause and effect relationships compared to survey. No matter what methods you are using PLS, you are using SAM, they said that it's only association, not truly causality. So for those who are in this area with experimental designs, I think you have a better chance, like when it comes to publication in some journals. Okay, yes, you mentioned about I'm lucky with like citations here, but mostly from books, not from international publications. I just started my career. I live in my zone of comfort so long. When I was in Indonesia, just recently, I started my international publication back to 2013. So I'm still learning, try to increase my publication and learn from everyone. Okay, the way I see the publication world today is just like this. It's getting harder and harder. I like the cartoon presented by Prof Ivan showing that you publish or perish. If you do not publish, they will shoot you. Same thing when we want to publish our papers, especially in top journals. All reviewers plus editors. Some journals, they have very, very complicated system. So for instance, in my experience, submitting paper to European Journal of Marketing, for instance, in ABDC is A star, and in Scopus, I think it's Q1. They have associate editor, they have regional editor, they have editor-in-chief. So your paper will go to each level and then it takes time. However, once it is accepted, you feel like, oh, so happy. Now, when it comes to the reality about academic publication, you can be happy, delighted, but for 1 or 2 days. We are under pressure of publication because everybody will congratulate you. Congratulations for your publication in Journal A or Journal B. And after that, the next question would be, what's next? It's like never-ending pressure. Now, while we can see publication as a game, don't forget we can also see that as a journey. It's a long, windy process. If we follow like what Professor Ivan mentioned, from initial preparation, starting from the ideas up to writing, pre-submission, and don't forget, always check for plagiarism, including self-plagiarism, which becomes a big issue today for publication. Many journals have sophisticated system to track your similarities between your papers and someone's papers, and also between your own papers. Submission process and then reviewing decision. The reality is that if we get R&R, revise and resubmit, that is a very, very good result from the first round, as long as it's not test rejected. Don't expect, especially in marketing and consumer behavior fields, when you submit your paper, straight away it will be accepted as is. That's not gonna happen. At least you like the way reviewers see a paper, and then the way they see their job is always trying to find areas for improvement or things to criticize or find reasons or justification for the acceptance. And that's the reality. We are lucky if we can get minor revisions. Just like any other authors, I have experienced so many rejections. That's the reality, isn't it? And then there's no guarantee that if you get R&R for the first round and then second round, yes, statistically, technically, it's closer to acceptance, but they can just reject your paper and you're like last minute. I experienced that, and it's heartbreaking. In one of the top journals where I submitted, initial submission, first round, major revision, I was so happy thinking that, wow, this is a good thing. Second round, one reviewer said minor revision, the other reviewer said rejection. And then the editor came back saying that we have so many submissions at this point of time, we can't take it anymore. So we wish you luck. Try to submit in any other outlet. Oh my goodness. So easy to write that like these couple sentences, but for us, the impact is so long, isn't it? And then I think like some journals, the way they decide on the fate of a paper, today more and more, because I like to discuss with other editors in chief and also like associate editors about their policies. It seems to be a general policy now. When you submit your paper, they will look at your paper and try to assess, if we give you a chance to revise, how long would it take? Not many journals now are patient enough to give you a chance for third, fourth, fifth round. For them, if they think that yours is, there will be no chance that it will be accepted after one or two rounds, they decided to give it a rejection. Because like some journals editors, they are very, very strict in protecting the time and efforts of their reviewers. And also in reality, the problem with reviewing papers, those reviewers, after first round, when you ask them, are you willing to review a revised version of this paper? Some of them might say no. But what it means for the journal editor, they should find a replacement for the second round. And that will take a longer time if it involves more than two rounds. So that is also the thing that we need to consider when we decide to target the journal and submit a paper. Now, the first issue that I want to deal with, as required and asked by the committee, choosing a journal. One of the issues here in the recent publication, I believe that in some WhatsApp groups, the paper has been circulated, predatory publishing in Scopus. So talking about predatory publication, this is a big issue. While desperate, at the same time, people are desperate for publication, but please remember, this may damage your reputation if you publish in such journals. So please, when you decide to choose a journal, be careful and then spend some time to have a look at the journal, look at the reputation before you submit. Now, I think in one of the questions during Q&A with Professor Ivan, that question was about how to start, whether we have to start with choosing the journal first or do the research, write the paper, and then find the journal. In my opinion, just like what Professor Ivan mentioned, either way is okay. However, there is also a risk if you decided right from the beginning, you decided on the target journal and then try to write to fit with that journal, because there is no guarantee that the paper will be accepted at journal. However, there is also another strategy. When we begin a research project, we should have some alternative of target journals, not only one. And sometimes context is important, like what Professor Ivan mentioned. Local context, international flavor, that is very important because we are targeting an international journal. By definition, the audience, the readers of the journal are international readers. So it must have something like attracts their attention and interest. So in my experience, sometimes when I begin a project, I try to have a look at the potential of the papers, not only for one area. So for instance, if you decided to start with a specific area, tourism marketing, for instance, we can also think about a possibility to send out the paper not only for tourism journal, but is there a chance to submit it at services marketing, for instance, for plan B, if it is not successful there? So that is a good one. Now, in general, 3 suggestions here are available. One, attempt to publish only in the highest quality journals. I know some of my friends, they always target A or A star according to ABDC or Q1. Like, if not, they are not interested in that kind of project. We can do that if we, as time goes by, if we want to aim high. However, that is not the only option. The second option is we can work on papers that focus on our individual strengths and interests, and then we try to assess the best journal possible, while we also need to be realistic about the chance. Some other senior authors that I have ever talked to gave me advice like always try, aim high, and then go down the list. So let's say if you use Q1, try Q1 first. If you are not successful once or twice, then target Q2 and go down to that levels. Same for myself. As much as I see the potential of the paper, I try A star first. If it doesn't have a luck, or look at the comments. If we have a consistent comment saying that it's not strong enough in terms of theoretical contribution, which is the most important issue, then probably we should give up trying at A star level and go down the level. That would be another approach. Or the third one, shotgun approach. Try our luck. Any journal will do. It's also another approach. But I think this might not be the best option. In my opinion, in my experience, I always do number 2. But again, we share experience here. Now, recently, I work with my 2 colleagues. We try to write a small opinion paper, which is now under review somewhere. So in terms of advice on how to choose a journal, we call it check and recheck strategy. Try as much as we can to avoid predatory journals. So how to do that? At least 5 things that we need to consider. First, before we submit the paper, we need to check whether the target journal has passed the screening of Beall's list and also cables of predatory journals and publishers. Try to avoid those journals. And then whether the journal is listed in DOAJ and COPE. That's the first thing that we need to consider. And obviously, ranking status. If we follow Web of Science or Scopus, look at their ranking. And also for me, I always use ABDC or FT50 sometimes. Of course, we want to get a higher, stricter ranking system. but it's not always possible depending on it depends on our project and our paper. So we look at the ranking of the ranking status of the journal, and then impact factor, the index, and more importantly, whether a target journal is recognized by scholars in our field. If we do this, what we call due diligence, before we target the journal, it will not only save time, but also save our reputation. That's the simple advice. Now, when we talk about aims and scope of a journal of special issues, I just want to share with an example. Please spend enough time to learn about, to study the aims and scope of the target journal. This is an area of like mistakes that many authors did. If you do not know about the aims and scope of the journal when you submitted the paper, you have the high risk of being thus rejected. Now, for instance, I have a collaboration with my 3 other colleagues for a special issue about social media influencer marketing, which will like due on 1st of December this year at Journal of Internet Commerce. This is a B journal according to ABDC. I think in Skimago is Q2. So pay attention to the section which we call aims and scope. So we can look at what types of papers they are looking for. So in my example here, we invite empirical papers, conceptual papers, or even systematic review papers, as long as the papers addressed the suggested topics. And more importantly, here we put that suggested topics include the following, but are not limited to the list. So it means that it can be something outside the bullet points here, as long as within the topic. Now, sometimes when we are not sure whether our idea, our topic fits with the aims and scope of the journal, instead of like playing guessing game, like complete your paper, submit, and try and wait for the long time to get the feedback. It doesn't hurt you if you want to write to one of the editors to ask whether your ideas, your topics, your proposal fits with the aims and scope of the special issues. That will help a lot, and then will save time. So for instance, in this topic, please welcome you. Like I use this opportunity, Prof, to promote this special issue at the same time. Because you mentioned sustainability, I didn't like put that on my slides. I'm also co-guest editing a special issue for that journal, because I know there is a paid journal and it's very expensive, 1,900 Swiss franc for like APC. That's why I don't. But our topic for that special issue about social entrepreneurship and sustainability. Okay. So have a look at the deadlines. The beauty of special issues is that it has deadlines. And then the topic is very narrow, very specific. So chances are, it depends on the special issues itself, of course, themselves, number of submissions or process are faster than the regular issues. That's the beauty with special issues, because we have the target specific time. So this is an example. So please spend time to read aims and scope, so your paper will match or fit with the target journal. Now, the next issue, from editors' point of view, what they are looking for. Basically, we are looking for 5 issues here when we evaluate a paper. Either when we make an evaluation before we send the paper for review, or when we make a final decision. I think Prof. Ivan will agree with this. Right? This is a general issues that we are looking for. First of all is originality. Of course, it has to pass the plagiarism checking. But don't forget, if we are targeting academic journal, theoretical contribution is very, very important. Context is important. Local context, local value. Yes, my research is always about Indonesia because I like to do something that I know, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Thailand. But it's not only relying on the context. The thing that we cannot ignore is theoretical contribution. What we can learn from these data. Because if we only rely on the context, rely on the country, specific industry, or even the company, that would build what we call empirical contribution. For many journals, especially reputable journals, empirical contributions alone are not sufficient. We need to go beyond that. So that's why I think I will link to the previous question about what to write in conclusion. That is very important to highlight the implications or contributions. Theoretical, methodological, managerial, and or public policy contributions. The best way is if you have at least a combination of two of them. But theoretical contribution is always the thing most journals are looking for, unless if the journals that we are targeting highlight more on managerial aspects. Okay, then lead review. This is very important. I know that in my interactions with some PhD students, now everyone is so excited with lead review after learning about Prisma, or how to do bibliometric things like that. Okay, but the next question is, we have to be very aware, very, right from the beginning, very sure about why we do what we do. Because it's not only about presenting results from previous studies, but more importantly, what do we know? What have we known? What do we need to know more? In other words, research gaps. Up-to-date, relevant, and coherent lead review. In my experience as a reviewer and also as an associate editor, I've seen many papers in this part did a very long, spent long pages, many pages, long discussion about lead review, but it's all about according to X, according to B, according to C, and no synthesis at all. Okay, and then another one is methodology. It must be rigor. I've seen that many authors, especially junior authors or newcomers in the business, this section looks more like a research methodology book. It's like discussing or summarizing everything from methodology book. That is not what we are looking for. But justification, quality data. Now this becomes like an issue. Some journals, they prefer longitudinal data instead of one-shot cross-sectional data. If we only use student samples, we have to provide a very strong justification into why we focus on student samples. And last but not least, quality of communication. But this issue can be handled slightly, relatively easy if we have proofreading services, right? Now, I have two slides highlighting some issues of why papers are rejected or why we get revisions, what reviewers and editors are looking for specifically in different sections of a paper. So I want to re-highlight what Professor Ivan mentioned. Abstract is very important. Many authors forget about this one. Abstract is the last thing they prepare. We tend to subscribe to lastminute.com, you're like busy spending time to do the statistical analysis, not enough time to prepare the abstract, and just cut and paste here and there, put it as an abstract. But don't forget, this section is the one that will be sent out to potential reviewers, and also the first thing that the editor will read to assess about whether the paper fits with the journal's aim and scope or not. So please think about abstract. There was a question earlier about how to write a good abstract. In your abstract, if you can follow some styles in top journals or emerald style with a structured abstract, at least we highlight the research question and why the research question is important, methods, key findings, and contributions. This is an art because we need to write these things in less than 100 or 150 words. And that is the thing. And then another one is writing style. This is a very big issue if we get a rejection and then want to resubmit to another journal. Don't forget that different journals might have different writing styles, different like requirements, guidelines. So please always pay attention to details. Okay? And then justification, why we do what we did. Theoretical grounding, something like authors need to synthesize theoretical perspectives, cannot only present according to theory A, theory B, theory C, and let the authors decide on their interpretation. We are writing an academic paper, not a mystery novel. So you're like, it's not like hide and seek and save like the key findings until the last part of the papers. That is not the same. We are not writing Harry Potter series. We are writing like an academic journal article. Methods. I know some authors, if you subscribe to quantitative approach, you love PLS so much. In your methods, it's kind of you present all the outputs in the table forms without any discussions. That is not what reviewers and authors are and editors are looking for. Don't forget, as an authors, our concern is what to include or exclude in the paper. But the readers and the gatekeepers, especially editors and reviewers, what they are looking for in a paper is what they can take away from the paper. So we are in the marketing and consumer behavior field. When we write an academic paper, treat editors and also reviewers as our customers. What they need and want, we apply the same principles. Okay? Finding and discussion. Sometimes the problem is it's not complete or jump into conclusion. Findings and discussion must be related to the data. It must flow well. And contributions, especially theoretical contributions, are very, very crucial. Last but not least, don't forget about limitations and future research. What kinds of suggestions that we can provide for future research studies. Okay, the last issue here is about handling rejection. As I said earlier, nobody loves rejection, but that is the reality. Many journals, they have rejection rates up to 95, 97%, meaning that majority of papers will end up with being desk rejected or rejected after reviews. But that should not discourage us from demotivate us from publication. As soon as we learn from experiences and also from other people's experiences, we know how to play the game and how to follow the system. Because there's no guarantee that if you have a portfolio of publications, you will be always successful in your submission. There's no such thing like in academic publication. We are all learners. Now, what to do in this case? In my experience, every time I receive a rejection, I will always take some time, just put it aside first for about 1 or 2 weeks. I don't want to read the detailed like reasons for rejection first, because that might affect my mood. So I will try to cool down first, because having read the sentence that your paper cannot proceed for publication or something like that, that itself already creates a kind of headache, frustration, bad feeling, name it, right? So it takes time for me to digest and like to adapt. But once I'm okay, then I try to read the comments in detail and then try to understand how reviewers and also editors see the paper. From that, try to be positive, thinking about how best to address the comments before I resubmit to another journal. And then this is a good advice. Don't simply resubmit to another journal. Like what Professor Ivan mentioned, that our academic world is a small world. It can end up with the same reviewers again. In my experience as a reviewer, I've ever experienced that. I rejected a paper for journal A. I give a long list of reasons, very long points. And then somehow, 2 weeks later, I received an invitation from another journal for the same paper without any revision. Oh, you can guess what I'm going to write in my response. I like this job. I can finish that within minutes. Right? So I can increase my reputation with that journal with very quick turnaround. I accept the invitation and then finish my review in just a short time. Copy paste the same comments, send it back with the same recommendation. Good job. Try your luck again to another journal. Who knows? The editor will send it to me again. That will help me. Oh, that's don't do that.
Nasib.
Yeah, because one thing we need to know: most reviewers do the job voluntarily. We are not paid, so we spend time to become the gatekeepers for the journals, for the knowledge, for our discipline. So when we spend time to read the paper carefully and try to highlight areas of improvement, and then it's not appreciated, how do you feel? So we need to understand from 2 points of view, from reviewers or editors, and also from the author's point of view. So rejection is a norm in many top journals. Empirical research has confirmed that review process can be damaging to academic self-confidence. Yes, stressful. You kind of feel like you lose your self-confidence because being rejected by a journal. But please don't subscribe to that kind of practice. Take it easy, meaning that we can still learn from our bad experiences. Okay, stay positive, work on the comments and suggestions to revise and submit elsewhere. Who knows, your paper will have a better chance to publish in other journals. In my experience, I have ever experienced that. My paper was rejected by an A journal, so A level according to ABDC. So we revised based on the comments because we thought that, oh, the comments are very good. We revised on that one. We resubmit to A-star journal, and then it was accepted. Crazy, right? Most people are like, after you get the rejection, you submit to lower rank journal. But for us, we thought that, oh, now with new revised version, we have a better chance. Why don't we try to higher rank journal? We were lucky with that journal. So please think about the comments positively. Okay, I think most parts have been covered by Professor Ivan. I'm looking forward for the Q&A. So this is sad realities about our field. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Fandy. Very interesting presentation.